Beloved of Christ, good morning.
Good morning.
And happy Sabbath. Greetings in the name of Jesus Christ, in whom we share this glorious morning. Children of God, lights of the world, pilgrim saints of Westdale United Church, it's so wonderful to see your beautiful shiny faces as we gather in the Spirit of the Lord. It's wonderful to see your faces again, to be with you. I missed you. I want to thank you for all your prayers and texts and a beautiful prayer blanket that Brenda picked for my mother. And my mom is doing well. She's waiting for surgery, but she's in good cheer. So I want to thank you for that, for keeping in touch and allowing me to leave in such short notice. And I want to thank Caroline and the worship team and Stephanie and John and Brenda and the choir for leading in worship the last few weeks. And thank you for that. And Shelley as well. Kinds of people involved. God's blessing be on you as you enter this holy place in the stillness and the beauty of this house of God, built of faith and vision, hallowed by prayers and pilgrim lives. You are the body of Christ in this place. Today is All Saints Sunday. And since its earliest centuries, the Church has set aside a day to remember the great cloud of witnesses who have gone before us in the faith. And so we join this great symphony of prayer, past and present. In the one Spirit we are baptized into one body. In the Spirit's nourishing power we travel together. We sing a song of love to the one who first loved us. And we sing it as a child of God. And we sing it with every soul and every language and every race, which proclaims this world is good, because God has made it and God has blessed it. Westdale is good soil. God has planted in us seeds of faith and of hope and of wonder in this ground as we worship, friendship, and wonder grow. So relax in the Spirit, sway with the music, be captured by prayer, for this is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice. Hallelujah. Amen and amen. People of God, look around and see all the images of God assembled here. This is a place of God's abiding, a sanctuary, and a light to the world. So I invite you to please join with me as we light the Christ candle. Sharing Christ's Spirit, we receive the gift of this new day.
Declare your dancing light within us, lighting the way for every pilgrim.
With believers and seekers the whole world wide, with people in every land and speakers of every language,
we join in grace, symphony, and prayer.
So very
Thankful,
incredibly,
grateful,
unbelievably,
blessed,
lighting a candle is a prayer for courage.
to lead us and make us bold.
The wind can have our caution.
We light your lamp of love.
The light of the world. Among us.
We gather into the sacred space, eager to worship.
Your grace floods this place.
Glory to God everywhere.
And through your blessings, may we know your joy within us.
Star Maker,
Light of the world.
Fire of
without end.
In the light of your love, we take off our shoes.
God of the seasons, you surround us with beauty and wonder.
We smile in the orange mountains.
You dance in the tumbling leaves.
All hallows, all saints, all souls, all holy.
O God, as we worship, make yourself known to us.
Let us worship the source of love and life. Amen.
Let us hold still. Let the Spirit rest upon us. Let us pray. Amazing God, maker of light, God of starshine and sunshine, Holy Spirit, storm and breath, building bridges, breaking chains, lifting up the oppressed, making us one, unseen and unexpected, untamable energy of life. We praise and adore you. Your love has built this house. Your voice echoes in the rafters. In mystery and grandeur, we see your face in each other. God of creation, Lord of all beauty, we join the symphony of singing love around the world this day. In the light of this beautiful morning, O Lord, we glorify your name. Pilgrim God, gather us in by your kindness. We lean upon your welcome. We feel your gladness for our arrival. You are the tug and dance that moves us. Stir the waters by which we gather. Shine brightly from our faces. God of wondrous love, wild and challenging, glorious and graceful, free-flowing Spirit, gather us together. Great Holy One, spreading time and space, show us who you are in a human face. For you are our hope and our joy, and nothing in all creation can separate us from your love. And so with hearts and minds and voices we praise you. May we feel the heartbeat of your love. Let the hurry and worry from our week fall away. Sweep through this holy place where saints are grown as faith is shared and love is discovered, for we are ready to be surprised. Come, bread of heaven, and nourish your pilgrim people. Give us this day our daily bread. In the name of the one who walked on water, in the Spirit of Christ we pray. Amen. I invite you to lift up your voices and join in singing, Come, children, join to sing.
Hallelujah.
Please join me in the prayer of illumination. Holy Spirit, you are wild and wise and speak truth that sets us free.
You shout in the streets, and you whisper in our ears.
Your voice echoes all around and deep within.
The words you speak have the power to challenge old ideas and heal ancient wounds.
Your word gives sanctuary to our hurry and peace in the shadows.
Eternal light, shine in our hearts.
Eternal wisdom, make us wise.
In the Spirit of Christ we pray. Amen.
The Old Testament reading is from Daniel chapter 7, verses 1 to 3 and 15 to 18. Daniel wrote, I was terrified by these visions and didn't know what to think. So I asked one of those standing there, and he explained, the 4 beasts are our 4 earthly kingdoms, but God Most High will give his kingdom to his chosen ones, and it will be theirs forever and ever. Sorry, just give me a second. Sorry, my apologies. Hang on here. My apologies, I read 15 to 18 first, so now I'm going back to let's just start all. Good morning. Okay, now we're starting at chapter 7, verse 1. Okay, we all got it, right? In the first year of the king Ahijah and Babylon, I had some dreams and visions where I was to sleep one night, and I wrote them down. The 4 winds were sitting up on the mighty sea, when suddenly 4 powerful beasts came out of the sea. Each beast was different. Verse 15. I was terrified by those visions, and didn't know what to think. So I asked one of those standing there, and he explained, the 4 beasts are 4 earthly kingdoms, but God Most High will give his kingdom to the chosen ones, and it will be theirs forever and ever. Sorry, Chris. You should have got a professional. The New Testament reading, I'm going to get this one right. The New Testament reading is St. Luke chapter 6, verses 20 to 31. Jesus looked at his disciples and said, God will bless you people who are poor. His kingdom belongs to you. God will bless you hungry people. You will have plenty to eat. God will bless you people who are crying. You will laugh. God will bless you when others hate you and won't have anything to do with you. God will bless you when people insult you and say cruel things about you, all because you are a follower of the Son of Man. Long ago, your people did these same things to the prophets. So when this happens to you, be happy and jump for joy. You will have a great reward in heaven. But you rich people are in trouble. You have already had an easy life. You well-fed people are in for trouble. You will go hungry. You people who are laughing now are in for trouble. You are going to cry and weep. You are in trouble when everyone says good things about you. That is what your people said about those prophets who told lies. This is what I say to all who will listen to me. Love your enemies and be good to everyone who hates you. Ask God to bless anyone who curses you and pray for everyone who is cruel to you. If someone slaps you on one cheek, don't stop that person from slapping you on the other cheek. If someone wants to take your coat, don't try to keep back your shirt. Give to everyone who asks, and don't ask people to return what they have taken from you. Treat others just as you want to be treated. This is the good news of Jesus Christ. Thanks be to God. Thanks, brother.
is going to make a mistake because I prepared the choir for World Communion Sunday, which we were going to have on October 2nd. We sang this song then, and I said, you'll hear it again when we really do World Communion Sunday, which I thought was going to be today, but I'm mistaken. But we're still going to sing it because it's a beautiful anthem.
I said we were going to have communion, and then I didn't have communion. And, I'm like Elmer Fudd sometimes.
Maybe we should have Michelle and Shelley take over.
That's what I heard, yeah. They did a marvelous job. Michelle and Shelley, thank you, and John, and wonderful. Wonderful to be able to go away and have things, continue. I mean, that's, yeah. So grateful. So grateful. Grateful for everything. Would you pray with me? God of amazing grace and miraculous power, you made the stars and formed the mountains. In this house of words, surprise us with your poetry, and speak to us in the beating of our hearts and the stirring of our spirits, and by your wide grace show us your narrow path. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit we pray. Amen. There's a picture of my mom's house in little Port Morion near Glace Bay in Cape Breton. If you've been there, it's as far east as you can go on the island, and it was hit very hard during Hurricane Fiona or Tropical Storm Fiona. They talked about it on the radio, and Justin Trudeau was there. My mother said, I miss Justin Trudeau, she said. She has a bit of a crush on Justin Trudeau, I think. And she said, that's the worst thing of all, I miss Justin, to meet Justin. But I said, yeah, maybe you could cut some trees down for us. But, I'll vote for you if you cut my trees down. But he's probably more handy with a chainsaw than I am. But when I got there, I left there on the Wednesday, I got there the Friday. I went right to the hospital, and so by the time I left Mom, it was probably 9 o'clock or so, 9:30. I didn't know what to expect, and so it was black. It was just blackness, and so no power. And there was a few trees across the lane, and the lane's about 400 feet long, and there's about 6.5 acres there. And so it's a house really in the woods, and now it's very much a house surrounded by fallen trees. I lost count after 40 trees. It's just unreal how many trees have fallen around it. But it was really, if you look, all these trees fell around the house, and only one hit the house. One hit. About 6 of them hit it like dominoes and then landed on the house on the corner. And so that's the veranda, the bottom, the top left there of the house, the veranda that Dad built. And then behind there, the garage, there's a tree hit the garage, put a hole in the roof, and then the back. I said to Mom, it really is quite amazing. The old house stood up, and and there was Mom weathered the storm. She went in on the Friday, called the ambulance herself, and the storm hit Saturday. So there she was with power and food and people that cared for her. And so she wasn't there when all this was happening all around her. And so I got there it was dark, and so I got out and I charted my course. The power line was down on the front lawn there, the telephone wire, and so Daisy and I found our way to the house and set things up. So the power came on a few days later. Actually, Port Morning was quite quick with that. But this old tree was on the front lawn there. This was my dad's favorite tree. He used to sit in a lawn chair underneath it. It's an elm tree. Dad used to say that in the Gaelic alphabet, the Celtic Gaelic alphabet is based on trees. And the first letter of the alphabet, A, Elam, is elm, the elm tree. So it grows straight and tall. It's waterproof. Often the hull of the Blue Nose was made out of elm. Often boat hulls are made out of elm wood. It's very flexible, but it grows tall and straight. And so before my mother could tell me not to, I found my dad's old chainsaw, and I cut a few of the poplar trees that fell across the lane and just set them aside. But this one, the elm tree on the left, I started to trim away at the branches. I started at the furthest part, and then it started to lift. And then it propped itself back up. And I never seen that before. But the roots were so strong and so flexible and deep, that it propped itself up. And my mom said, how did you get it? How did you cut the top of it there? Where'd you find a ladder that high? But I said, that was on the ground when I cut the top of that. And then she promised me, or made me promise that I'd put away the chainsaw. I said, what bad? What could happen? She said, so I left the rest to the pros. And that elm tree there, I thought about that. This straight tree, this first letter of the alphabet, the alpha, the omega. I thought this tree that stood up, because of this tension in the root, pulling it up to its feet. The resilience, right? The word resurrection literally means to stand up again. We heard Ian read so well, blessed are you poor, for yours is the kingdom of God. Blessed are the poor, the hungry, the grieving, those who have been knocked down. Because Jesus said it won't always be that way. For the rich, the well-fed, the happy, you too will be knocked down at times because life is hard. But your roots are strong too. Jesus begins his sermon today. Ian takes us up The mountain, at first Jesus is there, and then he comes down to a plain and he preaches, and begins today with a sentence that certainly must have captivated that audience. His audience was likely, most of them were poor and hungry. Their lives were far from easy. They were knocked down. Their rough, worn hands attested to that fact. The difficulties and hardships of their lives drove them to travel the hot and dusty roads of Judea to listen to Jesus. His ministry had just begun. Things are not what they will always be, Jesus said. There is hope. Jesus, according to Luke, had prayed on the mountain that night, prayed all night, and the next morning, from among the disciples who now followed him, he selected 12. He called the 12, called them apostles, to be with him and to go out in his name and minister. And he said, you will lighten people's burdens. You will remove what weighs people down. And after he selected them, he went down to a level place, and around him gathered 3 circles, the 12, the apostles, and then the larger group of disciples from whom they were selected, and then the third ring around him, those who were interested in what Jesus is saying but not quite ready to follow. And to them all Jesus said, if you love people who love you, big deal. If somebody takes your coat, give them your shirt too. Love your enemies. Pray for those who persecute you. Jesus turned the world upside down. I remember a number of years ago in Kingston, I was a student minister in a church, Sydenham United Church, and it was close to downtown, and Kingston gets lots of winter, and so when you went in, you took off your boots, and you left them at the door, and I had some slippers, and when I came out, somebody stole my boots. And I thought, I better chase after them and give them my shirt as well. Not really. I thought, I hope they take size 9, because I hope they don't fit at first. That's why I said, I hope they don't fit them. I didn't want to give them a shirt as well. But Jesus said, if somebody takes your coat, give them your shirt as well. But I turned around. I remembered. Who I am. What credit is that to you? Sinners do that, Jesus said. If you do good to those who do good to you, what credit is that to you? Sinners do that. Or if you lend to people who lend to you, what credit is that to you? Sinners do that. You are to love and to do good and to lend to people who will have absolutely no thanks to you, no gift in return, no positive response, no love to you, no kindness to you. Why? Because that's the way God does. That's the way God is. If you want to be my follower, you do not let your life become dictated by the people around you. The people who reject you determine your life? No. The people who accept you determine your life? No. Enemies define your life? No. Friends define your life? No. The people who hate you, the people who love you, do not create your character. Your character is created by the character of God. You're created in the image of God. You are a saint. You are a tree that cannot stay down because your roots are deep. A priest friend of mine used to say that a saint is somebody who said yes to God and then kept saying yes to God. A saint is somebody who bears witness to what God can do. When I was a little boy, I remember I talked about a minister, Reverend Tadeha. His name was Reverend Tadeha. He was from the Philippines, and he came to Trinity United Church in Windsor, and he had a gold tooth. That was a fellow with the colors, and he just loved kids, and he used to tell all the kids, you're all saints. You're all saints. And the church had stained glass windows. It was really quite a dark church, and all these windows were all full of saints, and St. Peter, St. Paul, everybody, all these saints, and he asked us, he said, who are these people? You know who these saints are? And we said, no, we don't know who these are. And he said that saints are the ones who the sun shines through. The saints are those through whom we see Jesus and hear his promise, if you abide in me, I will abide in you. The saints are the ones who the light of Christ shines through. Tuesday this week, November the 1st, is All Saints' Day. Not a huge day on the church calendar, but a significant one nonetheless. If Halloween is Masks On Day, then All Saints is Masks Off Day. When we stop to remember just how many people are beloved of God, those we can name and those we cannot, those who left their mark on this world and those who vanished without a trace, St. Teresa and your second-grade teacher, St. Francis and your neighbor who cut your grass. Today we call them saints not because they perform miracles or wear halos. We call them saints because they belong to God, maybe even show us a little bit of God, the same way that we are showing a little bit of God right now. The English word saint comes from the Latin word sanctus. My grade 11 teacher, Mr. Atkinson, would be proud. The word translated in Greek is holy, hagios, holy. When I call you a saint, I want you to know that I think you are holy. You, the saints of Westdale, are holy ground, in which the seed of the Spirit is planted. You are precious, chosen, and loved by God. Masks off, that's who you truly are. All of you are saints. You belong to God. You are God's beloved. In the Gospels, Jesus turns things upside down time and time again. In the Gospel, the mountain is a place of prayer, but the valley, the level place, is where the people live. This is a sermon for the disciples, for the crowds, for everyone, for you, me, for your neighbor. This is a call to saintly living. The church is in the business of producing saints. I can almost feel you squirm in your pews when I say that. Too often we think of saints in some exalted way. We gather here as a congregation, a gathering of saints, folks who are trying to follow Jesus, remembering all the saints whose witness has brought you here. More than any other day of the year, I think today is a family reunion day for the church. All Saints Sunday is the day for pulling out the old photo album and remembering where we came from. Open one page and you may find St. Francis standing barefoot in the snow with birds on his shoulder and his pet wolf by his side. Or maybe you will turn to St. Joan of Arc, who led men twice her size into battle. She preferred armor to petticoats and puzzled everyone by dressing like a man, but the voices of her critics were nothing compared to the voice of God in her heart. If you keep turning pages, you may come across St. Christopher hiking through a swollen river with his tunic hitched up around his knees, his right hand on his staff, and his left around the feet of a child he's carrying on his back. These are some of our more famous ancestors. But if you keep looking, you will find others not as well known, but no less intriguing. There is St. Maximilian, the first conscientious objector who was drafted by the Roman army, but refused to serve. St. Maximilian. His only loyalty, he said, was to the army of God. This was a great shame for his father, a veteran who knew that his son's decision meant that he would be beheaded. And on his way to being killed, he noticed the shabby clothing of his executioner and calling to his father, and the crowd asked that his own new clothes be taken off and given to the man. A similar story is told about St. James, the great brother of St. John. It was so full of grace, he was so full of grace on his way to his death that the guard assigned to him fell on his knees and confessed him in his prisoner James raised him up by the hand, kissed him on the cheek, and said, "Peace be with you." And both men were executed together. But the last sweet exchange lives on in the exchange of the peace that we observe to this day. The peace of the Lord be with you. Saints. Saints are not distinguished by their goodness, they are distinguished by their extravagant love of God, which shines brighter than anything else about them. They really are ordinary men and women whose love of God has led them to do extraordinary things, which means none of us can shrug our shoulders and say sainthood is beyond our reach. When I was in Cape Breton, I met up with a cousin. She came over, or the second cousin, who I met a number of years ago when I was my parents' minister in this little village in Port Moran. I was there for 4 years, in Port Moran and Donkin, and I met a lot of cousins, people I was related to that I hadn't met before, and her brother Glenn had died. And Glenn lived in Hamilton. He was homeless. He had lived in Hamilton for years and years. She hadn't been in touch with him for 30 years until he was dying. And she went up to Hamilton and she was with him, and she brought him home to lay him to rest in Port Moran. And I remember Glenn, I'd never met Glenn. She showed me a picture of him from the newspaper in Hamilton with pigeons. And he lived outside, he lived in this square, and I remember he died the very same day that Steve Jobs died. That was October, I think, 2011. And he died from the exact same cancer that Steve Jobs died. I thought, here was a man, Steve Jobs, who had everything, who was known by everyone. And here's my cousin Glenn, who I had never met, who very few people had ever known. So his sister came over the other day, and we were talking about the service, and the service was on All Saints' Day. Remember that, All Saints' Day? The church was full of people. We talked about him as a little boy. On All Saints' Day, we make the valuable claim that all these people are there are relatives. You do not have to be famous or perfect. You just have to be you. The one-of-a-kind, never-to-be-repeated human being whom God created you to be and to love as you are. And to throw your arms around the world, to shine like the sun. You do not have to do it alone either. You have all this company, all these saints sitting right here whom you can see for yourself. All of them encouraging you, calling you by name because you are a part of them and they're part of you, and all of us are knit together in the communion of saints. On this All Saints Sunday, I give thanks to God for the saints, all of them, especially each one of you. Paul often addressed his letters to saints. Paul, called to be an apostle of Christ Jesus by the will of God, to the church of God that is in Corinth, to those who are holy in Christ Jesus, called to be saints. If I wrote this church a letter to the saints of Westdale, I call you saints because I believe you are holy, and I have seen you without your mask. Maya Angelou, the great poet, said, if somebody shows you who you are, if somebody shows you who you are, who they are, believe them. I see a room full of people being exactly who they are, kind and gentle. To the saints of Westdale United Church, grace and peace to you in the name of God's beloved. Amen and amen. I invite you to lift up your voices and join in singing, Let Us Build a House.
daughter's been up here for the last 4 weeks. And I must admit, I'm very proud of her. But today it's my turn, and I'm not going to do a sermon, I'm just going to do the Minute for Mission. Women for Change Zambia is one of over 100 partners supported through our mission and service. Since its inception in 1992, the organization has mobilized communities to share ideas and best practices, including the topic of food sustainability. Today, 1,500 community groups are meeting regularly, each one gathering 25 to 40 people. Groups discuss how they can save and share seeds, what they can plant with longer or shorter rains, and if there are traditional methods that can increase food production. Altogether, 37,000 people have learned together and supported each other to address food insecurity. What an incredible impact. But what is really touching is how Lumba Stianga, the Executive Director of Women for Change, describes our relationship. The United Church has been supporting us since 1995 and has been there for us through really challenging times. What sets the United Church apart is that you don't just give us money, you want to get to know us. It's a different approach. We really have a relationship. It's a true partnership. When you give through mission and service, you are not only providing financial support, but also your generosity unfolds within a mutually caring relationship. It's the difference between dropping food off on a doorstep and sitting down for a meal. By getting to know our partners, we not only take our lead from them about how best to provide tangible support, but we also give and receive spiritual care through relationship building.
Just a quick announcement, if you like hockey and you haven't gone to support the Peach yet, this Thursday, all the proceeds go to the new Canadian Centre. So I'm going to put this poster up. It's $20 a ticket, and I'll put it out on the bulletin board. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen, and thank you, Janice. The prophet Isaiah wrote, "In quietness and in trust shall be your strength. So be still, beloved of Christ, and touch the breeze of the Spirit with the quiet in your soul." Let us pray. God of hope and expectation, God of promise, bright holy God, God of each, God of all, glory to you, Almighty God. Meet us here, O God of the prophets, and give us this day your word of hope. For all the saints who went before us, who have spoken to our hearts and touched us with your love, we praise you, O God. For all the saints who live beside us, whose strengths are woven with our own, we praise you, O God. For all the saints who live beyond us, who challenge us to heal the world with them, we praise you, O God. God, you invite us into community with you, into this marvelous church and into your world, to love one another as Christ loves us. We thank you, O God, for this community of saints, this community of love. Emmanuel, God promised, and God with us. You are with us always, wherever we go. Help us to see the needs of those around us, the pains of those among us, the joys of those who inspire us, and the hopes of those who lead us. We seek your graces of healing. We seek your touch of healing, O God. And so in the silence within us or spoken aloud, we lift up to you in prayer all those who we carry with us into worship today. Either hope, either peace, either healing, either song in the night. We pray that your loving hand will be felt upon their shoulder. Let us include the world in our prayers, where peace lies wounded, where love has to hide. Heal all that is broken in our world, in our streets, in our hearts. Grant us courage and the humility to follow your footpath of peace, to love you not only with our hearts, but also with our hands. Challenge us to build bridges, to be neighbor, to be compassionate, and to show the human face of the divine to your world. For we make our prayer to the one whose Spirit fills this place. We pray in the name of your great love for us, the one whose name is peace, whose heart is peace, whose soul is peace. We pray in Jesus' name by joining all your church in singing the prayer that Jesus taught us to pray. Music and laughter, hands and minds and hearts, imagination, curiosity and compassion. What an abundance of gifts you have. The gift of your life is a blessing to this world. So with joy, let us present offerings of commitment and support for the work of Christ Church right here in Peterborough and through the Mission and Service Fund around the world. Wonderful. Let us open our hearts to the Spirit. Let us pray. Amazing God, whose image lies in the heart of all people, we don't give because you make us. We give because we are grateful. Gracious God, bless the gifts that we give and the gift that we are. Bless our offering of time and talent and treasure. Magnify them in your name to heal, create, and to bless your world. And may these gifts bring light to those who walk in darkness. Spirit of God, rest upon these gifts, that through them wisdom and understanding may grow. Scatter our gifts like seeds of hope. Harvest our gifts as the fruits of your kingdom. In the beloved name of Jesus we pray. Amen. Amen. announcements. Yeah, the beautiful chairs there in the hall, and for Bob, looking at the nursery there. The property committee wishes to extend their thanks and appreciation to Mike and Lauren. Thank you very much for the beautiful rocking chairs there, glider rockers, in the nursery and the assembly room. Christmas wreath making workshop. Mary Jane is going to offer a beautiful workshop here. That's Tuesday, November 22nd, 6:30. So there's 12 spaces available there. You see the cost. It's $25, and bring your gardening gloves and pruners, and yeah, that's going to be wonderful. Men's breakfast. We're going to try it now Sunday morning before church, and so the church is going to smell like bacon. The church, and that'll be good. And that's Sunday at 9 a.m. And we'll have coffee. You can show up early and have coffee before. So Henderson Hall, fellowship and breakfast there. You can let me know if you're coming. And but if you forget to let me know, come anyways. I mean, it'll be wonderful. And so we had a wonderful group the last time. I think we had probably 10 or 12 men. So come to that. That's the first Sunday of Advent as well. So the book club. Invisible thread. Everyone is welcome to join this discussion. Laura, Alex, the book there, An Invisible Thread. So that's Friday, November 25th in the library. Bowling. Can you spare the time? I get that. And that's going to be wonderful. That's after church Sunday, November the 20th. So you sign up for that in the narthex. Lots of things happening. Snowflake Marketplace and lunch. Looking forward to that. Saturday the 12th. Yeah. There. Shelley will be at the church on Friday. And I think Shelley wants to share some things about it. You want to talk about this snowflake?
I want to talk about something else.
Something else? Okay. All right. Do you want to talk about that now? You think? Okay. Falling down. Yeah.
I was talking to Belle de Honor's son, Terry, this week. He has in the past made Christmas cakes for us and brought them, a very kind friend to Westdale in memory of his mother. So I talked to him this week, and he would be glad to make cakes for us again. We won't know how many he comes up with till into a couple of weeks into November, and after the bazaar, I'll have a sign-up sheet when I know how many he is making and how many light and how many dark. We talked at length about the cost of making the cakes. It costs him $10 at least to make a cake. The price of everything has gone up tremendously, so we will be selling them for $20 this year. So buy your cakes from us, okay?
Wonderful. Thanks, Shelley. Yeah, they are so good. Wow. Thank you, Shelley. The Euchre night, lots of things happening, eh? Saturday, November 5th, so that one's coming up. That's next week. And yeah, we have a wonderful time. Fun Strip fundraiser, the gift cards, that's great. And you can talk to Charlotte about that. And so orders are due next Sunday. Well, Mary Jane asked me to mention the virtual Christmas cards this year, so that starts next week, I think, eh? Just $2. Okay, $2 for the virtual Christmas cards. Remember those? It was a wonderful idea, and yeah, thanks, Mary Jane. And I invite Ian to...
Thank you, Chris. I received a message a week and a half ago, and it was quite touching, and I felt like it should be something that's shared with you, the congregation of Westdale. The message reads, Wendy, it's been a moment since we connected, but we wanted to reach out. Sometimes thank you just doesn't seem like enough. This is one of those times. I hate the words pivot and transition, but every time there was a change, you were one of the first workplaces to implement it. Every time there was a question, you were the first to ask it. I can only imagine how frustrating and time-consuming it would have been to navigate from your end. But from where we sit, your attention to the detail made an impact, not just for the church, but collectively in the community as a whole. Dr. Pigott asked me to pass this note to you, and I hope that you will share it with your entire team on our behalf. In the coming weeks, we will have more tools available to support businesses and workplaces of worship through the next wave, but in the meantime, I hope that you will be able to enjoy the remaining colors we have been blessed with in the Kawarthas this year, which with much thanks, Keith Beercroft, who is the health promoter, family and community health with Peterborough Public Health. The Wendy I'm speaking of is Wendy Fusil. Wendy went over and above. She was the chair of the Health and Safety Committee, and as you know, for the last 2 years, we have had a number of restrictions, restraints, things that we needed to do to keep us all safe and healthy. A lot of that was driven by Wendy. And Wendy, on behalf of the Unified Board, on behalf of the congregation, and on behalf of the Health and Safety Committee, I want to thank you, and I'd like you to come forward, please. The piece that I didn't mention is that I'm now the chair of the Health. These are very, very big shoes to fill. But Wendy, on behalf of us, thank you for your dedication to keeping us safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian. That's actually the second time, so it's one time more than is needed. I passed that letter on to Ian because there was also a letter at the bottom that was a little more generic, and that was the more important one. It talked about this congregation as an example in the community, and that in the debriefing at Public Health, which they do regularly, Westdale United, not Wendy Fusil, Westdale United was acknowledged for being a leader in the community. You can say with pride that we don't think we've had any spread here, that we have continued to meet and continued to fill our mission. That was because I had a fabulous team, one of whom was Ian, Michelle, Bob, Tony. I've forgotten someone, I apologize. Reverend Chris, and before him, Reverend Bev, and absolutely Tanya. It does take a team, so on all of their behalves, I express my thank you, and thank you to all of you.
And Chris? Chris?
Yes?
Chris, we have one more announcement. I believe Brenda has an announcement.
Well, while Chris was away, he celebrated a special day. It was his 50th birthday. So on behalf of the choir and the congregation, we just have a little gift for you, but also there's going to be cake in the hall after church. So congratulations and happy birthday. We will sing this.
49.
Oh, nice.
I'm going to go to that. But yeah, my mother, when I was home, my mother turned 77. I'm October 11th, so my brother's born in October. We're all October. Very good. Good month for us. Wow, thanks so much. I'll sing a wonderful hymn, Go to the World. Gathered and scattered friends of Jesus, people of heart and spirit, go down to the world as a spirited people. For the love of God is yours to share. You are blessed to be a blessing, to do justice, love kindness, walk humbly with God, go live generously in love, trusting that God's love will never run out. And may your week dance with the grace of every blessing, as God blesses you and all you love, be a blessing to all you meet. And may your journey this week be blessed with God's laughter, healings, and compassionate-filled surprises. And may the Lord bless you and keep you and shine upon you with grace and mercy and give you what you need for each new day. Go boldly into the world carrying the light of Christ. Go now in peace. And may you see the face of Christ in everyone you meet, and may everyone you meet see the face of Christ in you.